Minute. Yeah, when we do that, yeah, please. Okay, and when you're ready. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the regular public council meeting in Town of Torbay for November 15th, 2021. First item here is new business. We'll start with Councillor Tapper. Thanks. Councillor Manning?
Nothing for me.
Pass. Councillor Pollard? Councillor Appleby?
Thank you and congratulations.
Councillor Goss?
Pass.
Deputy Mayor?
Pass.
And I got it. Thanks. All right. Now, is there anybody here, well, aside from Mr. Whitty, is there anybody that would like to go on the first Q&A session?
I'd like to have an opportunity to speak. Staff I have are outside, so if I could have the support then, when you speak, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, I think there'll be, yes, that'll be fine, yeah, no problem. Mr. Cody? Anyone else? No? Okay. All right, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as amended, please?
So moved.
Moved and seconded.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, we got a set of minutes here from our public council meeting dated November 1st, 2021. Can I get a motion to adopt those, please?
So moved.
Moved?
Second.
Seconded? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Proclamations, we don't have any proclamations tonight, but we do have a presentation. And it's the Mannion Project. And this is a, I guess, a signing of an MOU between the Town of Torbay and the Mannion Project. And Councillor Tapper, do you want to give a little bit of a background on this, if you might? Go ahead.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I'm chair of the board for the Newfoundland Labrador Connections. And I want to thank actually the outgoing council, because we did, or they did agree to for us to come forward with this agreement for signing. The Mannion project itself has been ongoing for a number of years now. A lot of research gone into it. The Irish government, the Newfoundland government, in association with Memorial University, back in 2015, I believe it started, they came across with hundreds of thousands of dollars of funding to help the Mannion collection itself. It's a collection of cards researched and handwritten by students at Memorial University in the folklore department. And these cards needed to be digitized. That has been done with the help of those three partners. There's 3 phases. 3 phases are complete, but the uploading for the 4th phase needs to be continued. So our board at the NLIC formed a subcommittee Three gentlemen are here tonight, George Power, Jim Bradley, and Sean Sullivan. We've been working on it now for some while, and we came up with the idea of having somebody, what we call a host for the Mannion project in their venue. And of course, the History House came along at the prime time, and I was associated with that myself. So I brought that to the board, and they agreed that we'd approach the town and seek some help, financial help, just to have a person in the interim while this is ongoing, be available to answer some questions if anybody was doing research for genealogy, whatever. This technical person would be the contact. So that's what the dollar amount is all about. So we're really, like I say, really happy to get the council approval last term, and so now I think it's time to get something on paper.
Yep. Okay, thank you. And I agree that this is a great partnership between the town of Torbay and Newfoundland Labrador Irish Connections and the Mannions and our History House. So I couldn't think of a better place to have that project that deals with genealogy and basically history of people that live here and around the province and the connection to Ireland and all that stuff. So I think that's really good, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I guess we'll just get up now and formality to sign it all up.
Picture of everybody.
Thank you.
See you later.
All right. Thank you.
See you later.
Alrighty. So that's the presentations. Q&A. Mr. Whitty.
I guess it's more of a commentary than questions. I'd like to congratulate the council and look at the progress that's going on around Torbay. The sidewalks and public transit, things the council need to run. That's the issue. About line 12, there's all kinds of progress going on there. And I liked what came out of ML. We started talking about regional government, and no working with different levels of government, and that's how you got your sidewalks, was provincial, and this was coming together. So that's my spiel.
Okay, so for those who may not have been able to hear what Mr. Whitty said, he was complimenting the town on some of the infrastructure that we've done in terms of sidewalks and some information coming out of M&L with regard to regional government and public transportation. And Brian, I thank you for that. And I would also acknowledge the fact that you sat some years around this table and worked towards those things that we were able to implement. And I think that people sometimes don't realize that from the inception of a project or an idea to the time when it actually gets implemented, sometimes it's several years. A lot of things don't happen as quickly as we'd like to. Like, I think that in terms of the sidewalk project that we're doing right now, that was something that we first started talking about, oh my God, eight years ago. And it just takes some time sometimes to get that proper funding opportunities in place. And to your point, I think that was the first time that we actually were able to come to an agreement and had that funding opportunity from the provincial government to cost share that project. So, yeah, so we appreciate that, and I appreciate the words that you had to say on behalf of council. Thank you. Mr. Cody.
Great. I may take, how long do I have?
5 minutes.
If I take a little longer, is that an issue?
We'll see.
All right, in order to do this justice, I need a little bit of time. I may finish in 5 minutes. I'll try. I'd like to welcome the 2 new councillors we have this year. I haven't met you people previously, although I do know Mr. Tapper. Similar people in County. And so I'm here with a new council. I've been here now twice in council chambers on previous times, which I have dates there. My concern, I think everyone sort of knows about it, but I wanted to bring it here again tonight to show the seriousness of the concerns that I express. Some 10 years ago, I'll just do a brief again so that we can bring the presence of us here. So 10 years ago, our company purchased a piece of property, North Pond Road, for $2.5 million. The largest price ever paid in East End for property. That's 2.5, 10 years ago. With investment, engineering, services, what we put into it, we're close somewhere between 7 to 10 million invested as of this point, fact document. The land was approved, it's totally accepted as a possible, not a possible, as an acceptable, pardon me, development plan. That has been gone through for 10 years with tremendous documented communication. On the first meeting I attended there, it was suggested that council, and Mr. Scott, you said you weren't aware of it, and there was no knowledge of it. Ms. Swartz was unaware of it. Yet the correspondence there suggested otherwise. The numerous documentations, which is why we prepared this document brief summary, to substantiate the facts of what we presented. The idea was that I was stopped in development because of shortage of water. I was told through correspondence that there wouldn't be water available until a water study was done. I was fine with that. But in between that, there seems to be an effort to further developments through the manipulation of what is infill versus what's not infill, which that can be substantiated and documented what constitutes the true definition of infill versus what the other. Through all that time, we've been waiting very respectfully before TAL, who told us not to apply, even though that section has been existing since 2018, which Mr. Scott said it wasn't. After I left here that night, first meeting, I said, sure, I can apply again if you wish. You said, yes, why don't you apply for a whole 180? I did. Yet, the committee said to me that there was only 60 to 100 lots. I had met with your development. I was happy to wait after December 31st, which was Schwartz documented here, that after December 31st last year, whatever infill would be left would be pertaining to this development that we brought. Fine, again, But since then, there's an effort to improve other developments, which I have no problem with that. The problem there is that Torrey is short of water. I compliment these other great gentlemen who are trying to improve this and develop Torrey as much as I am. But the respect, the duty of call, everything that's there as representative of Torrey, and, excuse me, we got a phone beeping here, turn it off, that's up. It's there that you have to recognize all the stuff that's there, in the sense that we wish to follow through with what was committed. If it's not committed, there's obviously going to be unfortunate that this will be forced to litigation. It's totally not necessary. I don't wish that. It's not even in my cards. I just want it was resolved. Ms. Dawn Chaplin told me that she had asked the lawyers to come in here to talk to counselors. She had told me again that she asked them to come back a second time. She didn't realize the significance, how important, but you've had 2 meetings with lawyers. I haven't engaged lawyers. You guys have. For what reason, I don't know. All again I want or ask is that you live by the commitment of the $10 million that I have. Other people want to get development. There's an effort here to approve, not infills, subdivision. It defines your own. For example, in the minutes of the night, Ms. Schwartz says, the proposal complies with existing policies and regulations. It doesn't even come close. Ms. Schwartz said that when I had the first meeting, she wasn't even aware of it, that we were approving. There's so much disconnect here. That's so wrong. And if anyone hasn't read this, what I was going to put forward, the brief, they don't understand all the stuff that's happened here. If people are in conflict of interest, they shouldn't vote here tonight. And all I ask is that I be given an opportunity to review this with appropriate people of the council, as I did with Ms. Dawn Chaplin, who was clearly explaining the situation. She said there was only so much, and I said, oh, fine. And I have no problem taking whatever I can, as she will tell you. But I'm not going to see other developments come in ahead of me because there's a reason here for someone to try to push those through. I can't go along with that, not with the level of development that I've invested here. Maybe my mistake was being part of Torrey. Maybe I should never involve Torrey, but I believe in Torrey. I believe Torrey is a beautiful place. I believe you guys are all great professional people. But live by your duty and live by your professionalism. If not, this gets into litigation. You're going to get into discoveries. You're going to get into the stuff that you don't need to. You're going to cost Torrey a lot of money. A waste of money. Now, I don't know who's going to force people here tonight to put that position. Whoever put this here tonight to try to get a vote on something that information is incorrect. There's so much wrong here. 5 years ago, Newfoundland Design defined the definition of infill. What's on the go here? They're not infills. The onesies and twosies, it describes what an infill is. So am I upset? God, am I ever upset? And why? Because this is my 4th time back here, and every time there's manipulation of what I'm saying. So much so that I hope it's recorded here tonight what I'm saying. Maybe I have to record everybody else. Now I'm finding out again, I've never wanted to do this. I don't know what's on the go here. I don't know who's driving this. Mr. Scott, you'll probably be the newest member for our MHA in the future. Ms. Thorne, you may be our new mayor, probably the first mayor. Ward Goss, great man. Ms. Appleby. Mr. Tapper, welcome back. Ms. Manning, I haven't met you. Mr. Potter, CEO of Orchard Cove, unbelievable professional position. All very professional people. And your duty is, as a town servant today, is to go by the act. Not push something through with false information. I wrote a letter here on the follow-up meeting. Everything I put in the meetings was cut out by Ms. Schwartz. 3-page letter, blanked out. I'll ask you to make the right decision. Allow me to work with you. All that happens before me is you just need water. It's fine to have a big house. It's fine to have a beautiful car. But if you can't afford it, you shouldn't have it. It's fine to have a new chamber. It's fine to have a marina. It's fine to have a convention center. It's fine to have a town hall. But you guys haven't spent no money on your infrastructure. That's the backbone. You can't have a good car without an engine. Municipalities are making a mistake. They're not spending enough money on the infrastructure. Should be regularly. They're still putting raw sewage into the harbor ground, which is supposed to be cleaned up 4 or 5 years ago. There's legalities there. You guys know it. But you're not spending any money on infrastructure. And it's so easy. I've done numerous jobs throughout Newfoundland where there's been less capacity of water than Fort Bay has, and I've plumbed the community. No problem at all. we'll send you the year, 3 pounds, plumb, or a small hole. So, what am I saying? What's the purpose of me being here? I just want to ask the council to do the right thing here tonight. Not force this, please, into litigation. It's not necessary. You don't need lawyers. Lawyers only clean up the mess that we make. They're great minds to unravel what we create. Who would want to create a mess here tonight? You know I'm not going to stand by. I can't. So I please ask all of you great people to make the right decision tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And, you know, you're always welcome here to express your thoughts and put your position forward. I guess just a couple of points. I think when you referenced that I didn't know about your application, I think I was talking about the one that was in 2010, before I ever got here. Okay, so, all right, and to your point about us consulting with our legal, that is more for us to understand, for the new members of council in particular, of our policy that we have in place, and that it's, that we're actually following the one that we have. So that was the consultation that we did there, and just those two clarifications, that's all. And I agree with you. I don't want to be getting into all kinds of legal wranglings all the time. It costs everybody money, right?
Go through this stuff, the correspondence. It's manipulated. It's so manipulated. There's a development here in North Palm Road. It's a subdivision trying to qualify it as an infill when your own documentation from Newfoundland Design describes the farm. It's great. Excellent idea. It's beautiful. Ms. Schwartz says it's great and it's needed. She's trying to sell it. It's great. Everyone knows it's great. But you have to live by your obligations. You can't try to undercut someone else because they're trying themselves trying to get ahead. That's conflict of interest. You can't do that.
Okay, all right.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you. I have one more Q&A question that came in through email, and I guess I'll just quickly read it out. So it came from Clayton Hodder, and it says, Donna would like to ask about this agenda item for the council meeting tonight. It's about 51 North Pond Road development. The dangerous turn that is directly in contact with this development plan is a very sore point that council has chosen to ignore. This problem can be handled very easily prior to the development going ahead that would solve this issue. Before this is developed, there should be land expropriated from the development to widen the road and remove this blind turn. This would allow for a shoulder to be put there for people to walk safely, be very much more visible to motorists, and remove the blind turn. Then the problem of cars exiting this place on a blind turn is eliminated. I also feel that the low water pressure issue that exists should be further examined before this is allowed. So, Clayton, thank you for sending that in. I'm not going to get into too much detail on that because there's a motion going to be coming forward, and it's not fair for me or anybody else to speak to a motion before it actually comes onto the floor. However, these issues that you raise will be dealt with by the planning department if there's approval in principle going forward with conditions that would be in place. And I will ask that that CAO forward this on to the planning department for a more detailed response to your question. Okay, Don? All right, thank you. All right. Thank you very much. Mayor's report. I just got just a quick report of the last couple of weeks. So on the 5th, myself and Deputy Mayor and Director of Corporate Services met with Newfoundland Labrador Credit Union to discuss town project funding that we have right now with them. That was a nice meeting, and it was very interesting to find out how much actually the credit union is involved across the province and different types of things that we can get from that partnership, so that was nice. On the 8th, we had our parliamentary procedure training. Also on the 8th, I attended on World Planning Day celebration at Torbay Common. I thank Julia for inviting me to that. I think Deputy Mayor was there as well. And it was really nice dinner, and there were some awards given out in terms of planning. So that was, we were glad to host that here in Torbay. On the 9th, we had our resident budget presentations, the ones that people sent in to this point. And then we met about our infrastructure priorities. On the 10th, we had a presentation for our Great Pond Water Study and North Pond status. And on the 11th, we had our Remembrance Day Ceremony. And I want to thank you to everybody who participated in that, residents and staff for organizing. They did a great job on that, so. That is that. Any questions on any of that stuff? I didn't think there would be. All right, perfect, thank you. Any business arising from the minutes, please? Nope, okay. Correspondence, we have correspondence from the Municipal Assessment Agency Board of Directors, the ballots for Urban and Avalon Regional Directors are out. I see that Councillor Thorne-Goss is on there. So I guess this must be sent back to the Eastern Regional Office no later than 4 p.m. So we'll vote on that next council meeting? Okay.
I can circulate it to all council again, asking for their feedback, and we'll bring them both back
All right.
with recommendation.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And there's one there for the Municipal Assessment Agency Board of Directors. Looks like there's
Urban and Avalon.
Urban and Avalon, and it looks like there's election for each board position, which is really good. We have a correspondence from the Eastern Regional Service Board, their 2022 budget services and fee structure. We'll forward that on to corporate services. Municipal and Provincial Affairs, Municipal Review, comments and recommendations. And this is to deal with town, oh, this is about the review that was done, right? Okay, so I met with them when they came in. So periodically, Municipal Affairs will come and they will review the, your minute, it's just the minutes they went over now. Our minutes to make sure that the town is recording our minutes correctly and that we're operating our, correctly. And they came back and looks like it was overall positive. I don't see anything there. So we'll forward that on to corporate services to look at and comment on. All right, thank you.
Could I make a point?
Go ahead.
Going back to the ballots,
Yep.
do we as a council have to have a motion to support one of those names on the ballot?
We already did.
Well, that goes back a while, though.
Yeah, well, we made a motion, was actually last week or the week before, to nominate Deputy Mayor Thorne-Goss for one of those positions she wanted to run for. So then I think what we do is we'll talk amongst ourselves and decide who else on that for the other positions that we'd like to vote for as a council, and then we'll put those names forward and we'll put the motion forward. Okay. That answer your question?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. Committees, council. There is committee of the whole report. There is none? Okay. Planning, land use development. Deputy Mayor.
Okay, I'm gonna do you can do whatever, but before I get into my plan tonight, I wanna ask everybody, is everybody familiar and read this, what's in this binder? I asked it a couple of weeks ago. Everybody's good?
Yeah.
Everybody's ready, okay. All right, so I'll proceed to what I have here. So, we met on Wednesday, November the 10th, and, well, we had an extended meeting on the November the 10th. We opened it up to all of council, Mayor Scott, Councillor Appleby, Councillor Goss, Councillor Tapper, Councillor Manning, CAO, and at the beginning of it was the Matthew Goss from Wood and Tita, I don't ask me what's her proper pronunciation of her last name?
I can't pronounce it either, but teacher from Wood is how I refer to
Teacher,
her.
okay. All right, and the intention of the meeting was to provide returning and new councillor members with a background on the town's municipal potable water supply and how the potable water supply affects development decisions. A number of development applications were deferred for decisions during the 2021 election campaign. The flood meeting invite was extended to the committee of the whole. So as a result of that, I'm going to move forward with some motions that I have here. The first one being C2021-025, 7 Darrell Pye Drive, residential medium density, RMD, land use zone, proposed 14-unit residential development, road dwelling, apartment use, discretionary use. The town of Torbay is in receipt of an application proposing a 14-unit residential road dwelling apartment development under single property ownership to be located at 7 Darrell Pye Drive, portion of 1 Darrell Pye Drive. This discretionary use proposal is compliant with Torbay Municipal Plan Goals and Objectives 2.1 and 2.3, as it is considered infill and avails of existing municipal servicing, as well as it is in keeping with the existing water allocation policy in effect and RMD land use zone development standards. There were 2 replies in response to the public notification which are attached. A detailed background report dated May 11, 2021 and resubmitted November 9, 2021, associated engineering concept and background information provided by the proponent, as well as plug committee minutes of November 10th. And I just wanted to, that came forward in September 10th maybe, and it was deferred at that meeting. So I just wanted to put that in there, that it had been deferred at that time. Based on discussions of this file by the Committee of the Whole at the November 10, 2021 meeting, the committee, having access to proposal in light of existing policies and regulations in effect, as well as having considered presentations received, and that there is a demand for this type of development with smaller household units for the 50-plus market in Torbay, the Flood Committee is forwarding this discretionary use application with recommendation for conditional approval, subject to the installation of 6-foot-high wooden privacy fence towards the neighboring properties to the south and east to address the concerns raised by neighboring property owner, as well as an additional condition outlined in attached development background report. Okay. A motion to conditionally approve application CO21-025 and to issue an approval in principle in accordance with the Torbay Development Regulations 2015-2025, specifically Regulations 33 and 90 pertaining to discretionary uses, the requirements of the RMD land use table, including conditions 4, 18, and 19 pertaining to road dwelling and apartment buildings, as well as stormwater management, and conditions 1 to 3 detailed in attached background report pertaining to the required provision of stamped engineering drawings and stormwater calculations, site plans, building floor and landscaping plans for review and approval by the town, including provision of a 6-foot-high wooden privacy fence towards the neighboring properties to the east and south. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
I'll say that this has been on the go for some time, and like I said, it came forward and at the meeting in September, and it was deferred. And I guess there's been a lot of discussion back and forth on, there's 3 or 4 outstanding applications. And it's the Committee of the Whole's, I guess, prerogative to move forward in this direction when we looked at this and invited everybody to our planning and development meeting one night last week. I think it was Wednesday night.
That it?
That's it for me.
Okay. So we'll go around and the CAO will keep track of the time. Remember that it's 3 minutes, right? Start with Councillor Tepper.
I just want to start because there was some mention of conflict of interest. And at our committee of the whole meeting the other evening, I clarified that my mother was a Goss. The applicant in this situation is a Goss.
No, not this one is not.
Sammy Goss, or Wally Goss.
That's it?
Not this applicant.
Yes.
Mhm.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Right, okay.
So I am not related. Very distantly, every Goss is related to Torbay.
All right.
But I just wanted to make that statement. But again, this seems to be hanging over our heads now for quite some time. I've read all the information provided from our staff. I've been in meetings now with the full council, and I don't see any reason why this development can't go ahead. It's approved by our developer. You know, it meets within all our regulations, and I got to tell you, I drive past, since that school was built, I drive past there numerous times daily, and it is a complete mess. It has been that development. It actually started when I was mayor, and obviously the school came along with an application and the government stopped the development after the whole area was cleared. So that's one reason, but you know, I think it's time now for that to be developed to the extent. But obviously too is the type of development. It's geared towards seniors, and we are losing seniors many of them much too often. You know, people who have worked in this house, in this town, and contributed to it. But I think it's time for us to stop that out migration, and this will help it. So I'm in full support of the motion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Manning?
I pretty much agree with everything Councillor Tapper just spoke about. And my concern also is the type of development, and we are in need of seniors development. And as he said, there are a lot of seniors having to leave the community that quite possibly could still function and stay here and enjoy Torbay as it is. So at this point, I really can't raise any objections to the motion either.
Thank you. Councillor Pollard?
Thank you, Your Worship. I sympathise with Deputy Mayor Thorne-Gaskell. I know her stomach's churning over at the present time just to introduce these next two motions and the amount of work and effort and time that Council prior to and right now have put into this discussion and decision-making process, and the fact that we're here after many long hours of consideration and thought and due course to listening to developers, you know, for and against, and hearing everything that has been said. There's always been a challenge with the number of water allocations, and I think we reduced that down to a number that was, you know, doable for what we could do between now and whenever we grapple with the water issue overall. To say that we have not considered everything that transpires would be unfair, I think. I think there are, you know, no matter what way council goes, there's going to be a for and against scenario. Probably not the most favorite of all decisions to make. To, you know, Councillor Tapper and Councillor Manning's point, this type of development is something that's definitely needed, and I think there's something that we need to traverse down the road and give it a try, so that you know, seniors do have an opportunity to stay within the confines of Torbay and hopefully live in units like this, and we can certainly, you know, trial it on this basis. The allocations and the discussion around the allocations, I mean, I thought long and hard and carefully about the definition of infill. As a matter of fact, we had some internal discussions around definition of infill. It was mentioned here earlier this evening in terms of what it meant, and I was sort of of the opinion that's the way it went as well. But looking at individual units, there are still a certain number of water services that are attached to that are within our allocation. So, you know, as of right now, I'm pretty much in favor. I also think that, you know, we need to address our overall water issues as quickly as we can. I know we're trying to do that both from a quality perspective and from a review of our resources and infrastructure perspective. And hopefully we'll be able to, you know, grapple with that. And as a matter of fact, it'd be nice if we get some developers to help us find some solutions to that so that, you know, larger developments can go ahead as well.
All right, thank you. Councillor Appleby?
Thank you, Your Worship. So I'm not going to be able to support this motion tonight. We are currently in a water ban, have been for quite some time. North Pond is clearly at capacity. The repeated communications that we've had with residents about the quality of the water, lack of pressure, those issues are things that we've heard for quite some time. It's also even made the media. I'd like to know, council's using its discretion for this tonight. This is not something that, you know, the application comes in, it just meets the regulations, we put it through. Council has to actually use its discretion to approve this evening. And when I listened to Mr. Cody speak earlier, his comment was, in that meeting, the mayor, we held it up, I was here, I don't know this, I didn't know either. And I can tell you, at that time, when the decision was taken for infill, my understanding was one-offs. For the people who wanted to build a house and could not, those are one-offs, not multi-unit complexes. And somehow, the intention of that motion has changed to consider something different using the discretion of council. And so, as I sit here tonight and I listen to the history, and I wasn't here the past 10 years, I'm only here the past 4 years, but I have read that binder from front to back. And I did read all of the letters that Mr. Cody has sent in, and I have to ask the question, how is it that a contractor who has made such a significant contribution to our town has not been able to get access to any water allocations? Yet these two motions that are coming forward tonight, both of those allocations have come within this calendar year to my understanding and are up for approval. So I'm struggling to understand why this council is choosing to use its discretion tonight to support further development on our water system, which is taxed. We did receive an update from Wood that said, you know, there's possibilities at Great Pond, which was promising and something to look forward to. We are going to continue with a regional discussion about the water supply and access to water. We certainly need to address this water issue. Personally, for me as a councillor, it's one of the top priorities that we have in this town. And it hurts me that we are strapped in development, any form of development, with a lack of access to water that we have right now. But with the information that I have, and I have followed this file closely, I attended the public sessions, I've read every email, there's 29 issues on the next motion that we have, and we have a contractor sitting in the room who's saying, I've got all this correspondence, I can't get my foot in the door, this is not adding up. I'm looking at it through the same lens going, I don't understand this either. So I'm sorry, I'm not going to support this motion this evening. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Haas?
Thank you, Your Worship. As councillors have already brought up points, you know, with I do agree with Councillor Tapper there that the area is a bit of an eyesore. That I drop my child to school there a couple of times a week at minimum, and you know, it would be nice to see some development there of some sort. I also agree that yes, seniors, there is a need, no doubt, not only to find them suitable accommodations, but to keep them in our community. So I do agree with that as well. The part I have a problem is with the water allocations. We've already, you know, approved 7 of these allocations as of such, with the taxing on our system right now, with the actual, you know, our situation with North Pond Road. You know, again, with the infill, I was more of the opinion of the 1 and 2s. And again, a lot of this information is pretty new to me coming into council, just shy of 2 months. A lot of information to take in, but I considered the infills in terms of the 1s and 2s as well, not considered multi-projects like that. So with some of those points taken in and the way I've thought about it, at this particular juncture, I think especially with the water allocations, that there's 7 already approved. I'm not in favor of this right now.
Okay, thank you. To me, is it? Oh, okay. So, I'm not really gonna get involved in debate per se, as per my charter rules, but what I will say is I wanna thank everybody for the work that you've put in over the last month, members of council and staff, to get up to speed quickly on these outstanding files that we have before us. And the one point that I will make, and it's to Councillor Rapp's point about discretion, is that the reason these are discretionary use is because we're following our regulation that for multi-unit, it is discretionary, and it forces us in that direction. It's not something that we choose to do discretion. It is for that point. So that's all I would raise on that. And, you know, I think that it's important what everybody has said, but particularly with regards to seniors and having a place for them to go. And I know that our economic development roadmap outlined that as one of our major issues that we need to deal with over the next few years. You know, our water supply is pretty taxed. I think that, you know, the fact that it's down right now is a temporary situation, but it still is only a certain number that we can expand on where we are now. So, you know, with that in mind, I will call question. Or I'll
I
bring it
just
back
want
to, I'll
to
bring it back
have-
to the chair to close off
Yes,
the debate.
please, and I'm just looking at, I guess, having Wood in here and look at, in relation to some of the comments be made, but I mean, it was a dry summer, and it's the first time in a number of years that the water has been that low, so we only can base our information, our decisions on the knowledge that our engineers have provided us with. But I have to say, from me, looking at this and being around for the last council and what have you, that I have struggled, and I've looked at this and where the information that we have here from where Mr. Cody is coming from. And I guess when we last talked about this, and from a legal perspective, we have to make a decision. And in some of this, it's a very difficult. I guess in all my years being here is something that I've literally been struggling with to go with this. And knowing that it's either way, that there's going to be somebody that'll be upset on this whole situation. So I guess we've put the motion forward, and I will be supporting, where I made the motion, I'll be supporting the motion.
Okay. Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Back to you.
Okay, second one is C2021-017. Residential medium density land use zone, multi-unit residential development, 13 units under phase 1. Road dwelling, apartment use, discretionary use. Background, the town of Torbay is in receipt of an application proposing to proceed with phase 1 of a multi-unit residential development at 51 Norpon Road. The development is proposed to be under one property ownership. Phase 1 consists of 3 single-story row structures, each containing 4 to 5 apartment units at 800 to 1,000 square feet in size for the 55-plus market, with associated driveway access, off-street parking, and open space. The remaining 13 units are proposed to be constructed in a subsequent phase. A detailed background report dated November 9th, associated engineering concept and color rendering as provided by the developer, public meeting agenda, records, representations received, as well as plot committee minutes of November 10, 2021 are attached for reference and form part of this motion report. Based on the discussions held with the Committee of the Whole on November 10th, 2021, and having access that the proposal complies with existing policies and regulations in effect, the town having already addressed some of the concerns raised by area residents around speeding and traffic through the installation of three-way stop and speed bumps at the Flemings Hill Norpon Road intersection. The developer constructing a home for the caretaker on land immediately adjacent to the development. The caretaker ensuring the continuous maintenance of the property. The required submission of detailed engineering plans and information being able to address stormwater and water pressure concerns so not to negatively affect neighboring properties, and considering that there is a need for this type of 55-plus friendly development, keeping Torbay seniors in the community, the Flood Committee forwards this application with recommendation for conditional approval. Therefore, the following motion will be tabled. Motion is conditionally approve Phase 1, 13 units of the proposed multi-unit residential development at 51 Norpon Road, application C2021-017, and to issue a conditional approval in principle in accordance with the Torbay Development Regulations 2015 to 2025, specifically Regulations 33 and 90 pertaining to discretionary uses, the requirements of the RMD land use zone table, including conditions 4, 18, and 19 pertaining to road dwelling and apartment buildings, as well as stormwater management, as well as conditions 1 to 5 detailed in attached background report pertaining to the required provisions of stamped engineering drawings and stormwater calculations, as well as the provision of water pressure analysis to ensure there is no negative effect on neighboring property owners, as well as the provision of site plans, building floor, and landscaping plans for review and approval by the town, including the provision of a 6-foot-high wooden privacy fence towards existing built-up residential properties to the east and west. So moved.
Moved and seconded. Comment?
Comments. This has been on the go for some time, and while there was a number of residents that expressed concern, felt that either we had addressed them through the speed bumps and looking at, and I guess one of the ones with the water pressure, we found out that there is indeed a water pressure issue up there, but it's in a different location than where these are being proposed to go. And we feel that, I guess, that a number of those considerations can be looked at and to be implemented, and as well as the developer, anything that's outstanding with the concerns that the residents have brought forward, they will be addressed in part of the conditions. So again, this is something that's was a long time coming to this decision, but I feel, knowing, having the information that we have, that it's something that, again, that's needed by the residents. And I know that every time we have an application such as this, there's a number of people who are normally for it and against it, and even campaigning. I couldn't believe the amount of people that were asking and that are interested in a property such as this, with this time in their lives. So again, it's very torn towards it all, but the bottom line, it meets our conditions and our regulations. So based on that, I'll be supporting the motion.
All right, thank you. Guess we'll start on this side again. Go around that way.
Thanks. This is another similar application, I guess. Something just struck me, actually. I've been trying to, after Mr. Cody got up and spoke, you know, because his application do go back for quite a while, even before, when he first purchased that land. It goes way back. And I was trying to think, because in my time on council, we approved a lot of subdivisions that were that had their own, that were unserviced, you know, and they're all over the town now. But there weren't very many that came along to be serviced. No, Ansties Cove did. But that's, you know, about it that I can recall anyway. So, but meanwhile, as mayor, we looked at the concept of a town center down here. But that didn't go anywhere either, because we had no water allocations. That was the reason that I was given anyway. We did look at developing that as a business center, a town center, that would, bring a lot of potential revenue into the town. So that kind of got shelved as well. So, looking at this application, for years, that's one of the last prime open space, land in the center of town. It was referred to as the meadow, and there was farmers and there was kids went up there and played and everything else, and it was, like I say, it was prime open space. No matter if you were living up there 10, 20, or 50 years, everybody was aware of that open space. Yes, it was developed along both roads, Comet Lane, North Pond Road. So everybody was aware of it. The traffic increased, and yes, some people may have lost pressure on their water. So, I'm of the same opinion that, again, it meets all the regulations, and it's geared towards seniors. And, I've read all the correspondence, again, the package that Mr. Cody presented, and there is a lot of history there. It goes back for a long while. But again, looking at progress, I think really I would support this. And again, we're all hoping that Great Pond will come true and for more servicing. But I've been on council before for years. I tried as mayor. I met with Danny Breen. I met with them all, and you are too. And we get the same answer. No, St. John's cannot, or the regional water supply anyway, can't be approved right now. So we are strapped, but this may impact what's left of our water allocations from North Pond out, obviously. So but I am in support of this motion.
Great, thank you. Just finished in time, I was getting ready to shut you down.
I saw the nod. No.
Councillor Manning?
You won't have to nod for me. Once again, as councillor, I'm glad you're speaking first. I agree with actually everything that you've just said. And some of because I also read all the material with Mr. Cody too, and I know it's been on the go for a long time also. And I've also read all the background for this project. For the Q&A that you got from Mr. Hodder, I was really interested in that thought process concerning the dangerous turn in the road and having the developer be responsible for looking after that situation, because like I said, I understand, and I know the area and small roadway and traffic, and I'm sure there's families up there with small kids, concerns. Well, I had a call today. So I understand all of that, and with the process that we have as council, like that can be all written into and be something that would have to be met, for the approval in principle. The other thing, even when we had our first discussion, the thing about the caretaker home, I love that idea, but I would love more of that idea that caretaker home was going to be in place at the completion of the project, and before anyone moves in, there's going to be someone there responsible, and that person is going to should be held responsible for the concerns the neighbors have with garbage and having the snow clearing done right, and the traffic stuff, like just keeping that and maintaining it. So once again, at this point, I too am in favor of this project. Going back to the 50-plus situation, I'm there now. Well, actually gone beyond, but it's something that I would have been interested in if my house was empty. But and I really believe that that's the way we need to go here for some projects anyway. We got to get it started and keep people here. So I am in support. Thank you.
Councillor Pollard?
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, I guess in, you know, the same as the other development that was there. And none of these decisions are easy, don't get me wrong. This one's slightly different than the other one as well in terms of issues around that, in terms of, you know, increased traffic, which we did try to address by putting stop signs in and speed bumps. To Councillor Manning's point, the caretaker, I think, should be a requirement of the approval in principle that probably gets done in conjunction with that phase if it's not already built into the things. And as well, at the last meeting, I did mention sight lines and to make sure that, you know, that the entry going into the area should have the appropriate sight lines that are associated with it. As for the numbers, and a couple of councillors mentioned in terms of the, you know, the water ban and scarce resources. Well, the water ban can happen to any water supply anywhere at any time based on what weather. It doesn't mean that the capacity doesn't exist. These numbers were provided by Wood after a very long and lengthy study and deliberation, and these are really supposedly conservative numbers at that as well, that, you know, we could do that safely. So I feel confident in that the numbers are there. The numbers for this particular part, I think, be it 13 units at this point in time. If this wasn't approved, then I think there is opportunity for 9 units to go there anyway. So we're not talking a whole lot of incremental units proposed at this point in time. I do sympathize with Mr. Cody, and the fact that he's here makes it a little harder sometimes, I guess, too, and people realize that, so I certainly don't, you know, want to think that I ignore the comments or haven't read the document or try to understand where he came from, because first when he did sit and talk, I was pretty much saying, yeah, you know, there's some type of rightness to what the gentleman is saying overall. At the end of the day, it comes down to 180 lot versus what we can do in the interim period, and so, you know, this, I think we can manage the 13 units, and that gets on my favor, but I also would like to work certainly in conjunction with you know, Mr. Cody in terms of developing anything that we can down the future and do the best we can on that side of things. So hopefully, I guess, and you know, to the residents who did call, I did listen, and I think that no matter where we go with these things, sometimes is not going to be favorable. There's also an obligation for, you know, folks who have the land to be able to deal with it the way they see fit as well, but we do understand the concerns around the traffic issues in that area, and like I said, the sight lines and the cleanliness of the property that needs to be taken over by that caretaker in place. So, you know, I don't have an issue with this project at the present time.
Great, thank you. Councillor Appleby?
Thank you, Worship. For many of the same reasons that I wasn't able to support the last motion, I won't be able to support this one as well. You know, there's 29 letters that came from residents, and we're elected here to represent residents, and that's our job. We're here to listen, we're here to wait out. That piece of land is the piece of land. The blind turn is the blind turn. The capacity of the roads there is the capacity of the roads. We've heard safety concerns about people saying they can't get out and walk. They're concerned about rats, they're concerned about the caretaker. They're concerned about this being a rental unit, and if, you know, the owner chooses to sell it in the future, who does he sell it to and what does it become? There's been an argument made, well, this is a private property belonging to somebody, but at the end of the day, where are they going to put that snow on that small piece of land up there? We're not responsible for clearing the land on private property, so where's the contractor going to put it? It's pretty much physically impossible to find a space, and that's what residents told us. You know, when I listened to the conversation around the table, and I sat through those water meetings, I was there for all of them, I asked all kinds of questions, and we have a leak in our current water system. We were told that by Wood. They said there is a leak, there's a nighttime leak happening. We haven't been able to find that and figure it out. The numbers that we had, I asked the questions, you know, where did these come from? They came from national numbers and waterfall. They didn't come from the pond. And the flow in that pond, we have one flow meter, as I understand it, of what's coming in. We've just put infrastructure in within the last year, and maybe change, of what that pond is actually doing. So the actual amount of information that we have about capacity and flow on that pond, physically what's happening there, is not strong or long. I think, you know, at the end of the day, I have to come back to the question of how is it that 2 proposals for infill, when I understood and I took the vote at the time of infill being a 1 over 2, being put forward here tonight, when I heard committee of the whole, when we met for 4.5 hours last week, to have this discussion, that there are still those 1 and 2 of people on a wait list being told there is not room for you on our water supply because we have these multi-unit complexes happening. And as Ward just said, the last one that we approved already had 7 of those one-offs before we gave the other 14. There were 60 in total. So there's a handful of people getting the majority of the access to what's there. And again, you've got a contractor who's got a 10-year investment with what was approved, and from my understanding, there won't be enough lots left to make that happen. The last thing I'll mention, lawyers told us if these allocations are based on 2 people per home, we need to make sure that we're really clear about that, because the numbers have to be standard. And if that pond runs dry, there's a big liability for the town of Torbay, and it's our job to protect the people in the town, and that's why I can't vote for it. And that's 1 second left. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councillor Giles?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, similar to the last application that we had, and I didn't support, I'm leaning the same way on this one. The infill thing still, I know with our regulation, but the infill thing, to me, is still the 1 or 2 off. You know, it's not just the blind turn. I mean, I don't think if you get the increased traffic there, you can't fix the whole road. I don't think the developer will take care of that. I think the municipality would have to be taking care of that at some point, so that'll be an expense to us as well. The water allocation, again, I know Wood told us that the supply seems good, but I just don't, at this particular juncture, I just don't feel that the allocations are represented here with the application. The snow clearing as well. And I get the rent versus own. You know, seniors, I want them in our community as much as anybody. If this was like Piper Stock Hill that had the development that you actually bought that property, you took care of it, and it wasn't a rent thing. We don't know what the future holds for that area if it's a rent versus own. So I just think that I would be more comfortable in that say if it was people buying those actual units versus renting, and see what happens down the road. So at this particular juncture, and taking in also with the queue of things, and again, just touching on Mr. Cody being involved with this for 10 years, it's kind of a in-line thing that comes to me, it comes to my mind too as well. So at this juncture, I don't support it.
Okay, thank you. I'll just have a quick comment. I hear what everyone is saying. I know I struggle also with the infill versus service extension, and we did actually go back and try and get a legal distinction on that. And the information that we were told is these applications that we have in front of us meet our current policy that council put in place in 2019. It's 2019 that we put in place the policy that we're dealing with now. So I think that, you know, that one up there in particular, I think, is a tricky one because it's zoned for residential. So if the applicant had to come in and say, I want to put in 9 single-family dwellings with subsidiary apartments, then we're looking at 18 families going up there, and council would have very little discretion. We'd have none, absolutely, because it would meet the requirements, and we'd basically be forced to approve something like that, provided we had water allocations to do it. So I think that's a bit of the difference between discretion and permitted use. And I think that in terms of traffic, the current proposal would be a lot less than 9 houses with basement apartments with, 18 families in there instead of 13 senior families. So, I hear everybody's argument. I think that, there's no way, no matter what way you come down on this, the important part for me is that we followed our regulations that we have in place. We followed our policy that we put in place in 2019, and we have to work within the rules that we have. So with that, I'll send it back to the chair.
Okay, I was going to mention, I guess what you had said there about the permitted use. It was already or had been talked about for, I think it was 9 houses, and we would have no control. We wouldn't have, they would have gone in, and then it would have been more of an issue with regards to possibly traffic. You'd have all ages there. I guess when you look at no rentals, we have rentals all through the town, and I could perceivably buy one of those units. And what I do with it is my business, so I could rent that out. And I don't think us as a council can really say that there's not going to be any rentals. That's up to the individuals, and there's rentals, I mean, we don't have to look too far, and I'm, you know, around here in this particular location, and there's a number of rentals, and we can't say that the property is not maintained or what have you, so that could be an issue with somebody that owns a home. What we might look at as being maintained, somebody else it mightn't be. It's up to the individual. So I guess that to me is something, and it was brought up in our meeting. However, it's at any given time a house. I could leave my house tomorrow and rent it. We have no control over that. So I've heard all of the issues that came back, and I feel pretty confident with the ones that we've addressed. And if we weren't able to address it as a council, that the developer has to address it in the conditions. And I also look at this from the landowners that are there. This has been on the go for a long time, trying to get to this point with an estate. And I think that it's good that we finally got to this place where we can look at that family doing something with their, with the estate.
Did it?
That's it?
Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Carry on.
The recommendation, I have a motion to accept listings for the permit listings for the period of October 28 to November 10th, 2021 is presented. So moved.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I just want to touch on the minutes from our committee of the whole meeting on November 10th. And the presentation by Wood, I touched on that. But preceding the actual PLUD meeting, Wood provided an update on ongoing flow meter study of North Pond and associated allocation numbers, possible water treatment considerations, and leak detection. Wood also provided an update on the Great Pond study as a possible additional source for municipal drinking. With regards to North Pond, increased flow metering and leak detection is required on North Pond system to arrive at a consistent information. The engineering study is ongoing. New flow meters are expected to be installed soon once the provincial tender is awarded. With regards to Great Pond, Wood Group advised that preliminary study results from the flow study look very promising. The aquatic study determined that the pond and downstream river are rich fish habitat, and prior to making a final determination on the suitability of the pond as a potable water supply, it will need to be determined what the project implications would be from a fish habitat perspective. Therefore, Wood recommends requesting a project review through DFO to determine if the federal government will be prepared to consider moving forward with considering the pond as a water supply and determining what associated impacts would be. Wood suggests continuing the monitoring of the flow data in Great Pond while DFO undertakes the project review. The next steps following this November 10th meeting, Wood Group will prepare a cost and timeline estimate for the DFO review and continuation of the flow metering for review and consideration by council. The other one that I have here is background for water allocations and associated development. Director Swartz provided background information on the 2019 freeze and the town arrived at current water and how the town arrived at the current water allocation policy. We had an application here for 1545 Torbay Road. It's a proposed 6-unit apartment building, 1 story in height. Director Swartz provided a detailed background on the proposal and noted that this particular file is currently undergoing the mandatory public notification process associated with a discretionary use application. The other one that we had that came up was YBC Developments, 180 lot subdivision, residential subdivision, Norpon Road. The Committee of the Whole was provided with a detailed background report and information on this subdivision application, its development history, and on correspondence exchanged between the developer and the town. The committee was also briefed on meetings held between the CAO, town staff, and the developer, who outlined his long-term commitment to the proposal. The Committee of the Whole of Council discussed the application in light of the current water allocation policy in effect. The committee expressed an interest in further reviewing this application in more detail, including the current water allocation policy and the remaining number of available allocations. This application is to be further discussed at an upcoming PLUD meeting for subsequent recommendation to council. And that meeting is scheduled to take place this Thursday morning at 8 o'clock. And that's the minutes from our Committee of the Whole.
All right. Thank you.
Just one comment, if I could. I'm an employee of DFO, and when and if there's any communication around any further work on Great Pond with DFO, I just want to be clear that I don't want to be involved in that, and if there's any potential for conflict with that being my employer, I just want to cite that now and make sure that council is aware and that there's, if there's anything at all that there's corresponding to do with next steps on that, I want to be very clear that I'm an employee and I don't want to have any part of that, just to be safe and make sure that there's no potential for conflict. So I'll cite the potential for conflict now and put it out there that that's my place of work. If there's any work being done or communication with DFO on any of those files, I just want to be kept out of it. And if there's a motion required when it comes to the table for anything to do with that, then I'll cite that when the time comes for a decision or vote, but I just want to make sure it's out there and it's clear and transparent.
Okay.
Okay? Thank
Thank
you.
you. All right. Thank you. Moving on. Administration and Human Resources. Councilor Tepper. Is that you?
Councillor Manning.
Councilor Manning, sorry.
All right,
Carry on.
thank you. So we had our meeting on Monday, November the 8th, and first thing on the agenda was the communications coordinator came in and reviewed her overall role, which is all the communications concerning the town. Maya, she's got a lot she's working on in regards of planning the development communications plan, social media plan, development internal social media policy, meeting with different towns, create their communication schedules, and she's doing a lot of things like branch management and development, auditing, issue management tool, and social channel management, social media. So she's doing a lot to revamp, I think, our communication systems. And then we went on to discuss strategic planning. A copy of the current strategic plan for 2017 to 2021 was issued to all current council members on November 1st for review and further discussion. And we discussed the requirement for current council to review and update the plan at the earliest opportunity, and see that discussion be held at an upcoming committee of the whole to confirm approach and timeline. We're hoping for the strategic planning session for current council to take place in early 2020. Policies and procedures. COA discussed the mandatory COVID-19 vaccination policy and research on an email ratification policy. Draft vaccination policy will be circulated to committee for review once finalized and then put forward for recommendation. There was an update provided to committee on the review and analysis currently underway with respect to the response received from the performance, productivity, training, and development assessments that went out. And committee discussed compiling a summary report of the major findings and which will be prepared and presented to all staff and council. Recruitment and selection, there was an update provided, ongoing recruitment efforts, heavy equipment operators for the 2001 to 2022 snow clearing season. External candidate interviews have been scheduled for November 12th and 15th. Also, corporate services administrator position has been posted externally with a closing date of November the 17th. Wellness committee, they have a lot of different things planned for the month of November and their Christmas season. Occupational health and safety, an overview was provided of the current OSH committee structure in place at the Town Hall, Infrastructure and Public Works Department, or Depot, sorry, Torbay Common, and Torbay Volunteer Fire Department. These minutes are now going to be required to be uploaded onto the Workplace Newfoundland Connect online services, so reports have to be put up there and timelines met. And that was pretty much what was discussed at that. Our next meeting is November the 22nd. And
Anybody
that's
have
it.
any questions?
Any questions? No?
No? Good.
Okay,
Thank you, Council Manning.
Thank you.
All right, corporate services. See, that's where I got confused there, look. Administration of finance reports and motions, 6.3.1.
Don't let it happen again.
Don't let it happen. I want it to happen again. Councilor Tapper?
Okay, you've all seen the package presented. First, we may save some time. The first document, Corporate Service Committee meeting motions, there was a couple of motions there that we talked about, and there's a document there as well with more explanation, but we are deciding to defer these motions until further discussion with council. And so if, and I mentioned to Director just before our meeting here, if he would like to speak to some more details.
One of the motions is a tax deferral motion. What we need to decide is what level of household income we would defer 100% of the property taxes and just do a lien against the property. And at what point will we start collecting 100% of the taxes with a prorated collection in between? This is very important to people, as we mentioned, seniors, because a lot of times they bought a house 20 years ago for $10,000 and now it's worth $250,000 and they're trying to live on some old age security and they can't possibly pay their taxes and still live and turn the lights on. So in order to help them out, I've introduced a tax deferral policy where they would get their taxes deferred, it would be liened against the property, and we would get 100% collection then when the property is actually sold. Well, the committee didn't come up with a value that we'd put in there and wanted to refer it to all of council as to what income level we would use. In the past, I've seen 30,000 used, as anything below that would be totally deferred. That's gross income before tax. And I think we already have a GIS discount level, which is around 18,000. So that would possibly be the absolute floor for the deferral. And I just welcome comments from council as to what you think would be an appropriate income level to defer taxes for our residents.
Okay, all right. You don't expect us to talk about that now?
No, I just want to mention that, I've been on council before, and the worst time is when a motion comes forward from finance for deferral of, thousands and thousands of unpaid taxes, and that, I think we gotta do something better than what we've been doing over the years, because we should collect every cent, because it's just not fair for other people so, yeah, just keep that in mind, because we will be, discussing that and bringing something forward at the next meeting.
Well, I suspect we got budget discussions this week anyway, right?
That's true.
So it'll all be all part of that,
Yeah.
and we'll be able to hammer something out then at that time, I would imagine. Right.
There's two things on it, Your Worship, sorry before you leave, is there should be samples from other towns around as to what, what ranges there are, so we can actually decide and have some more information to fill in those blanks. Two, I caution the discussion around seniors. It's not seniors, we can't target any individuals. It's gotta be, a group of folks who have an income. It could be any age demographic or anything along those lines, so it's not a senior-oriented scenario. As for the policy, my understanding of the deferral policy would indeed allow us to collect money at a different point in time of someone's financial situation, shall we say, for lack of a better word. So the charges would accrue against the person's property until such time as, they pass the property on to somebody else, or we get a chance to collect otherwise. But like I say, that should go back to committee for further discussion. We just want to make those couple of points.
All right, thank you.
The minutes of our meeting for November 10th are included. Just usual business, but I just want to touch base on number 4, the group benefits market review. We had some discussion on that, and what we pay for, staff pay for the insurance that we have now, and we're looking at other providers just to see and compare what rates are out there. So that's something that we've got on the radar. And so the check register is there for your information as well. So the list of invoices is there for any questions on that list?
I have one question on the loader repairs, the $19,000 invoice. Are we looking at that loader for replacement somewhere along the
I believe we are.
way?
Brian?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Okay, I'm trying to
Can I ask
find
a
my way
question?
here.
Do you have to read those invoices into the record?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to find them.
Can I ask a question on the invoices before we read them in, or do you want me to do it after?
I don't know, let's wait till he brings them up.
Okay.
Did you find the link, Ralph?
Please. I had it earlier. Okay, yes. Thanks, Ann. Okay, payroll, regular payroll for 39 employees for the 2-week period ended October 27th. Totaled $87,753.85. Accounts payable for the 2-week period ended November the 5th, 2021. Invoices in the amount of $68,207.50 were processed. Invoices for approval. I'd like to make a motion that we approve these invoices for payment. There are 10, totaling $133,224.86. Receiver General payroll remittance $25,895.84. North Atlantic Diesel $7,020.23. Stuart McKelvey Kennedy's Brook Phase 1 $5,254.35. NL Power Street Lighting $19,975.67. Eagle View Aerial Imagery for GIS $18,059.89. Wajax 2,000 JCB Loader Repairs $19,168.56. Lynn Morrissey HR Services $8,136.25. Diligent Waterworks Meeting Manager Pro Package Subscription $16,410.07. Commissioners, Municipal Enforcement, October 3rd to the 16th, $5,152. Commissioners, Municipal Enforcement, October the 17th to October 30th, $5,152. So moved.
Second.
Counselor Goss, second? Second. Okay. Question?
Yeah, if I could. Just curious about the Diligent Waterworks Meeting Manager Pro Package subscription. What is that?
That's our iCompass.
That's iCompass?
And our live streaming, yes.
Okay, thank you. And, yeah, that's all. I just wasn't sure what that was. Thanks.
Okay. Additional questions?
I go.
Great.
Stuart McKelvey, Kennedy's Brook Phase 1.
Right.
That would be regarding the motions of council that were passed regarding the, I guess, the land exchange and ongoing discussions with the developer solicitor regarding the required documentation for the subdivision agreement amendment. So it's been ongoing for a period of time. It's just not related to just because.
So that's not just like the past month or whatever.
No.
So how far back is that from right on the onset of that? Because I mean, $5,254 seems like a lot of money.
So the developer will be responsible for paying that. That won't be town cost. That'll be reimbursed by the developer.
Okay. So.
But I can provide that clarification to you after the
Yeah, I'm just
meeting.
concerned about the amount of money that's there, if this just stemmed from September, when this really came back to us again, with them couple of motions that we had, and then we had to rescind them and go with something. So I guess I'd like for whatever period that this is for, that should be shown, I guess,
Sure.
on the invoice and come back for clarification.
That invoice covers from August 13th right up till October 22nd.
So it started in August, so that was when that, so that's only them couple of motions that we had. That's-
Well, we met on site with the residents, and that was the September 20, it was around September 20th, so there was a lag period when there was no communications with the developer.
No, I'm just looking
Right.
again from August until really, and it was only them 4 motions that we had. Anyway, it's a lot of money for something, and you're saying that the developer will pay this expense.
All development is cost neutral to the town, so that was previously agreed to.
Okay.
Okay. All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, one last motion, is a capital invoice totaling $10,292.50. Make a motion for that to be paid. It's Holden's Transport, 40-foot sea container, $10,292.50. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Where or what would that sea container, where's that to?
Norm?
That's a storage container for at the depot site.
As you know, how can we approve, I'll be thrown out there, like a sea container, when we have been telling residents that they're not allowed to have them, and anyone who had them had to take them off the property?
On residential properties.
I know, but still,
We're an industrial site,
well, it's.
zoned that way.
Anything that's after coming into the town that I'm after seeing in the past, since I've been on council, and there was being a couple, and I'm thinking of one in particular, on property, and I understood it to be, commercial, that we have been talking about in planning, and we had that removed off the property.
It was residential.
Yeah, but I don't know if it was residential or not, because when it came back, I'm thinking that with the business, there is a business there. So I'm assuming that it would, I'll get clarification on that from the director, but I didn't see that those were permitted within the town. Anyway,
Across from what's now Metal, it used to be Metal World.
Yeah.
There were containers stored there all the time.
yeah, but we've had, the last
Commercial.
couple of years, we didn't allow them, and anybody that had them removed off the property.
Well,
Again, that was for residential sites.
we don't allow them on residential. I mean, we actually gave approval to a person on Burns Lane to convert a sea can into a
He
residential.
had it on his property, and that's what
Yeah.
I'm thinking, and we made it mandatory for him to go up and put siding and put the proper roof and that on it. And
Again, that's a
probably
residential
4 years
site.
ago.
But that was, he requested us to allow him to convert that to a shed. That was the issue there.
Yeah, I know, but anyway, so this, anyway, this, I have an issue with it, so.
All right. Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I believe that concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. All right, Economic Development and Tourism, Councillor Eppley.
Thank you, Worship. Okay, so we have a committee update here. I have to tell you, with all of the council meetings that we have, pretty much every night of the week, and then the M&L convention, even with our alternate in place, we were not able to secure a meeting time. So this update is here for anyone that has questions. By all means, feel free to ask, and I'll go back and get information for you. There's information there about partnerships. We're the Economic Development Officer met with the CEO of the Labrador North Chamber of Commerce, having a conversation about a collaborative economic development opportunity there for the spring of 2022. So there's more details to come. The sector-specific networking, foreign investment and labor force, there's an update there on that. The Torbay Business Awards nominations, it's been extended to November 30th, and I would encourage everybody to please take the time and nominate your favorite businesses in Torbay. There's the EDANL Awards of Excellence, so there's been a submission there for the Awards of Excellence for this Torbay Economic Strategic Road Map. There's information in the package about the Regional Wayfinding Project, and some of the signs are there for council and public to have a look at. And under tourism, the Economic Development Officer attended a Canadian Professional Institute of Planners session on October 28th, and the information is there about that. If anyone has questions, by all means. And culture and heritage, there's an application that was submitted to the Veterans Affairs Canada Commemorative Partnership Program under the Community War Memorial Grant application stream. And the information is provided as well about the concept that was there. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to bring them back and have a discussion at committee or attempt to answer, but where we haven't had a meeting yet, it's hard to provide an answer based on discussion.
Okay.
So,
Questions?
yeah,
Go ahead.
floor.
The culture and heritage, the application for the Veterans Memorial, is that something that we're going to decide on a council as, or I know that this was something that was put in there now, but considering that that's over at the War Memorial, are we going to have discussions about that? Or is what's in there now proposed, is that what's going to be the final?
I would say we'd ask the CAO the question on that. It says here the application was submitted, but it also says here it's a draft-only concept proposed, and site was included in the application. So I'd have to ask staff for clarification on that. We haven't met as a committee.
So it's a draft only to meet the deadline, so it would obviously come back for a final review approval. We did submit letters of support from different community groups with the application, and the Economic Development Tourism Officer, Director of Recreation Community Services, and the Director of Infrastructure and Public Works worked on that to put it together. So it's a concept for funding, but there's still a lot of logistics around that need to be finalized beforehand. So it was submitted to meet the funding application deadline.
Yeah, because we had talked about that like years ago, and there's
Yes.
different ideas to put over there, even as a memory tree place and different things
There's-
that we talked about.
Yeah,
So,
they're already in
good.
place, the memory trees.
But more like a lot
Oh,
of
yeah,
the
yeah.
residents that's over there now, but a lot of the residents don't know that that's something that potentially that they could do.
Yep,
Okay,
I
thanks.
agree. It's a, and even if it's just draft concept, I think
We can
that,
have that posted.
Mhm.
the idea around it, making it more accessible and linked up to Torbay Common, I think those,
That's what's
Oh, good.
currently put in there, so we can have that posted to the website for resident
Mhm.
information at this point.
all right, thank you. Any other questions?
Just, I guess this relates to tourism, but the 50th anniversary celebrations next year. I think the notice has gone out to residents now, they're getting a committee together to help out, and but I think that's important for the upcoming year to get this well underway early.
Yep,
Absolutely.
agreed.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah, if I could on that point, I think it's really important, the world is slowly starting to open again. And I can tell you, before I went to Corner Brook last week, I don't know if I'd felt as comfortable as I do now about traveling, knowing that you had to have your Vax Pass to get in just about anywhere and to make sure that those safety protocols were in place. As the world is beginning to reopen and people are more confident, comfortable, and vaccination rates are increasing, we are going to want to be attracting people to our town. And the Mannion Project today was one example of, having the ability to make sure that Torbay is on the map. Mayor, I believe you had an email from Torbay in the UK not that long ago, actually, and it happens sometimes that there's correspondence back and forth. And, I sit on the board of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. That's 2,000 communities across this country that know the town of Torbay because Councillor Trina Appleby is participating in those meetings and having those conversations. And our president of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities is mentioning the fact that a member of this council is chairing the National Committee to increase women's participation in municipal governance across the country. So, there's a lot of opportunities for us to have our presence as a town known and shared. And one of the updates that we had last time was how we were going to be, profiled in some of the tourism, information that's available to people. And I just think it's fabulous having someone here to continue to move that agenda and push it forward and make sure that people have the opportunity to come and see what our town's about. We have gorgeous views, we have gorgeous trails. The town is becoming a destination. We have a bakery, we have shops, we have, a restaurant to come to. Someday, hopefully, we'll have water and we'll have a town center and all the other things that we're hopeful for. But it's really important to have somebody working those files and building those partnerships. And, the very first bullet here was working with the CEO of Labrador North Chamber of Commerce. If Deanne was not here doing this work, those connections wouldn't be happening. So it's just amazing, and I think as we build with the successes of tonight and the continued, successes that we've been able to move forward, I'm looking forward to continuing to grow, especially the nature-based tourism piece. I think there's a lot of potential there. So that will be the end of it for me. If there's no other question, that'll end my report.
To your point with that resident email I got,
Yeah.
it was easy for me to mistake it for local. They were complaining about recycling garbage right off the bat. And I said, well, where is this road? And then when I went and read further down, it was
Yeah,
from Torbay
okay.
over in Devon. So
Mm.
I responded to him and directed him to his own mayor. Said maybe they'll help you. But yeah, I get a lot of those actually.
I had a few of them too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
invitations to go for ribbon cuttings and all kinds of things. So
Absolutely, and you
Good.
know what, there's a lot of good stuff. I mean, just one more point. When we were out at the M&L convention this past weekend, there were communications with 276 communities, and I was on the campaign trail, so I hit almost 276 of those communities having that conversation. And, the town of Buckins was one of the communities that I spoke and met with, and, they said to me, we'd love for you to come out, we'd love for you to come and experience our town. And I'm gonna make a point to go to Buckins for the come home year this year, simply because of those connections that happen when we travel and we attend and we meet these people. So I think, learning from each other, the business development, the community development, and also the tourism development, is just amazing, and I'm really happy to be able to be a part of moving that forward. Thank you.
thank you. All right. Moving on to Public Works, Infrastructure, Public Works. Oh,
Thank you,
chair of that now, Tony. Carry on.
Down here in the corner.
I should have looked at it.
We met on the 10th of November, myself and Councillor Appleby, and Brian, of course. The History House project, there's still a fair bit of work going on with the History House project, or has been going on since, I guess, we left it at the end of last council. And we did speak a bit to it at the last council meeting as well. And during the time of changeover, there was a change order that became necessary, and it made it difficult, I guess, to get council together to approve it. So I just want to read it into the motions now, so that it is recognized, and we could discuss it further, as it did spark some internal conversations, and we just want to make sure that everybody understands what is there. So the motion reads: motion to approve change order number 2 in the amount of $82,158.97. The change order is mainly related to structural modifications and adjustments, attic installation, exterior work adjustments to expose the wood flooring, change interior trim, and some additional asbestos abatement. I guess when the project is ongoing, I know they came to a section of the floors, and the floors had been torn up, and there were layers and layers of old floor that had to be removed, and then obviously new floors. And there's another motion coming right behind this one to actually level up the floors once everything is ripped up. You noticed through the backup that's there was the fire systems had to be put in. There were some electrical and plumbing that changes that had to be made inside. And I guess once you get into an older building, you run into some of those things, and then hopefully we're on the other side of the really, really large ones right at the present time. But this one's fairly large, so I just figured it'd be significant, so we could read that in to the motion. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Could I?
Oh,
No.
carry on, sorry.
So this is all within budget?
Right, we're still on our budget, right, Brian?
Yes, we're still under budget. And this work, as Councillor Pallard said, this was already approved by at CAO level during the election. So this is just to get it into the record, basically.
Okay, all right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Just on the heels of that too, I think we requested the committee to review the procurement policy and that as well during the process. Not that there's anything done a while here, it's just just want to make sure that these type things end up getting to council somehow anyway for a quick reaction right after. Lots of times we don't have to, because there are emergency situations, and CAOs are definitely within their right and power to do certain things. So I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page. Motion to approve contemplated change order number 9, which will become change order number 4 for this portion of the project in the amount of $6,938, and this is for the floor leveling, door replacement, some exterior lighting, as I had just mentioned. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Hopefully we're getting to the end of that, and hopefully it'll be open and generate some revenue for us and some activity. Stormwater management plan implementation. As you know, we are doing some remediation work in the Skipper's Landing area, and that project was essentially complete, I guess, from the first phase, and ran into some drainage issues, and we asked the contractor to clear, and we had an original estimate put forward by some $30,000. Once they got into the work, there was a lot more bog and associated fill that need to be taken out of there, and the actual cost to remove that went up to $77,500. So there's a motion here to approve the additional work on eastern side of Skipper's Landing, as noted, in the amount of $77,500 plus HST. So moved.
Second.
Seconded. Comments? Okay.
Did we go out to, did we get 3 quotes on this, or how are we awarding this $77,000? Like, what?
This would have been part of the original contractor who's on site doing the remediation work now at the present time.
But that's like a lot of money, so why wouldn't we have gone out and got quotes on different contractors to do that.
I guess that this would be considered a change order within that scope of work for that full project.
Well, the change order or not, I'm just looking at, because can I ask if that's the resident that had, like, where's this coming from? Because when we said about is that to correct the issue that one of the residents had in there? That letter that we had received about
That
a
is in that
particular
area,
resident?
yes, is in that area.
So this is to look after a particular resident concern?
Well, I guess all the management plan implementation is to take care of residents' concerns. It just happens that this is on side road in between two homes.
Yeah, I know, but I'm looking at, I guess, having received a number of emails and what have you from that, because I had asked before. So when I see this $30,000 there, when I was involved with Public Works and Infrastructure, that was an estimate that we had looked at then. So now that's after going up to 77,000.
Yes, as per the explanation there, yeah.
I know, but like, why wouldn't we look at that? It might be within the amount of money that's been allocated to it, but we could further find ourselves down the road with additional work, and we're not gonna have the money to do it. Like, that's a lot of money if it's what I'm thinking that it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think we gotta do the job correctly.
I know, I think we have to do it too, but ultimately, at the end of the day, shouldn't we, when somebody comes back like that, like if I was that contractor and I know I'm here on site, and it's almost like, well, yes, if you tell me that it's 100,000, I'm going to take it. Like, how do we know that it can't be done for a lesser value? Like, we've got caught up in these progress payments and looked at these change orders in the past, but that's a substantial amount of money, if it's what the area that I'm thinking that it is.
Can I speak to Mayor?
Go ahead.
Just to clarify, this motion is the extension of the next part of what needs to be done. And I don't know who's been down there, but I have been. And one side of the road is done properly. The second side of the road is not. What happened was we approved we made an approval here to dig out that hole. When they dug it out, they realized there was more bog. So the assumption that was made on there being rock and ground, which there was not. So to my understanding, Brian, you went back to the engineers to get information on this. So that's how we know what is valid here. It's not the contractor telling us, it's the engineers telling us what's required.
well
Can
aware.
I finish my
Yeah.
point, please?
Go ahead.
This is not about one resident's concern. This is about the $10 million project that needs to be done to rectify the issues with the stormwater management issues in that area. This $70,000 is within the budgeted amount that we have for this year. It's already been budgeted, the money is there. We did not spend the extent of what was budgeted for this year. So this is not an additional ask over and above what we have in our budget. This is what's going to be required so that the hole that is dug now between those two homes, when they went in and they dug it and they realized what it was, this hole now is causing a situation where the sub pumps in these homes are on 24/7 going, and if there's continued water, there could be flooding. Because we went in as a town and we dug that out as a next step. If we don't remediate this, then we have a potential liability for that flooding because we've created this issue. So this is the next step to remediate this issue now before it becomes another issue where we're back to lawyers having to do home repair and all those liability issues. By the time you look at all those things, that $77,000 is a drop in the bucket compared to what those risks would be. This gives us a chance as a town who's remediating those issues to take that next step to make sure we mitigate the issues that were caused by the last thing we motioned here. So I want to make sure that all of council understands this is a next step that we have to do, and the whole idea of doing this now is to remediate those issues that we've created. Thank you.
I'm good. I have a problem with this. I'm well aware. What?
Just a second, there's a motion on the floor.
Yes, I just wanted to ask the
Okay.
question, if this is where, and this is, I'm assuming, where we're trying to get with this. I have no problem, and I know because it was something that was dealt with from a campaign perspective and that everyone was aware of. All I'm saying, I agree that it needed to be, the contractor was in there, removed his equipment out of it in there, and left that hole in there, and the town had to go back in. I dealt with the individual and bring the engineer and what have you back. I fully agree that it needs to be done, and the fact that the money is there, I think that it possibly could. We need to look and see if it can be done for a lesser amount, is all that I'm saying. And if we haven't done that, I think in order to do due diligence to the whole thing, not because we have money in the budget, that money that could be potentially left over in the budget could be used to go look at stormwater management implementation in another area. I just wanted to know what we done to look at the cost. We were concerned about 16, 30,000, now it's 77,000. That's all that I'm looking at. And if it's the area that I'm looking at, I agree we need to do it, but the liability should have been on when they were in there working originally to look at correcting this issue.
Okay, all right, thank you. Anybody else have any comment on this motion? No? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. To June. Councilor Goslin.
The, I won't read all the individual items that are there, but the fire department annex is still in process, getting close to completion, I would expect. Flow meter project is still ongoing. The salt sand storage building, the RFP tender closed, work order came in well over budget, so that's gonna have to be discussed. And the next round of budgets, or 2022 budget, there's talk about carry over of the amount for this year to combine with next year's amount as well, but I'm sure that will be an item for discussion. Information there on the sidewalks and the traffic calming on the Pauline line, which we referred to the province, I do believe, in terms of trying to get a response. Gas tax funding, there's some work done on Ready Drive and Country Drive. And when they were doing the work there, they essentially wiped out some of the shoulders and that, so they need to put some pipes in two different areas there on Country Road, or Country Drive. So the motion to approve the additional work on Country Drive as noted above in the amount of $11,500 plus HST. This work will address some of the narrow shoulders on the streets, so moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions? Comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And the rest there is for your reading, with the exception of the last item for the funding application. As you know, the discussions around water treatment and the rejection by the province on our previous submission, they asked us to come back and do it in phases, so this is a motion to essentially break that up in phases, and as well to cover off the call under the Invest in Canada Infrastructure program from the federal government that is due to be submitted by the 26th of November. So they're a combined motion here, and there's substantial dollars associated with it. Nothing that we haven't seen before. New council might not have seen it, but I know any of us who were around prior had talked about the $14 million price tag, whatever it was, for water treatment, then we reduced it down to $7 million or $8 million, whatever it comes out to be. So anyway, I'll read this out and we can discuss it more as we go. Resolved that the town of Torbay proceed with the 2022-2023 municipal infrastructure application to the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure for consideration under the Investing in Infrastructure program. The capital application estimate is $9,388,600, HST included, and the initiatives are as follows. Water treatment plant for North Pond utilizing a dissolved air flotation with filtration technology. This initiative is identified in Council's 2018-2021 strategic plan. Torbay requires an adequate and sustainable potable water supply to meet its current and future needs. The project will be phased over 3 years. Phase 1, pilot test and detailed design of selected alternative for $950,000. Phase 2 is the building construction of $3 million. And then it's the equipment installation, commission, and water storage portion of it, which is $3.5 million. As well, we're putting in for the shorter term, I guess, ISIP program, $1,930,600 for sidewalk construction in the following areas: Pauline line to Indian Mill line with an automatic safety crossing at Indian Mill line, Torbay Road to the common lot on Pauline line, North Pond Road to Common Lane to Man's Lane, Darrell Pye Drive to Food Lane, Torbay Road to North Pond Manor on North Pond Road, and Marine Drive to High School on Lynch's Lane. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The rest is there for reading purpose. Anybody wants to go? We spoke briefly about northbound water and then safety concerns, which were also addressed at one of the other committees earlier in terms of how our occupational health and safety program works.
Thank you, sir.
So ends my report, Your Worship.
All right, thank you very much.
Can I make one comment?
Sure.
I did send an email asking about the procurement policy and asking that it be referred to committee. So I haven't heard anything back about that. I'm just wondering if I could ask that be referred to committees requested or followed up on, because I haven't heard anything on it
Actually,
since.
Council Power mentioned that when he was going through it, that
Could
was
I-
referred.
Can I speak to
Right,
that, Mayor?
yep.
Councillor Appleby, after you sent your email request, I did speak to Director of Corporate Services, and I did send an email to all council acknowledging that the Director will be reviewing the procurement policy in light of legislation, and that he did a recent training session after our PMA meeting, and that the recommendations would come back by Corporate Services.
Okay, so when can we expect those recommendations to come back for discussion?
I'll speak to the Director and advise council after the meeting.
Okay, thank you. And the other piece, I wanted to thank the Director of Public Works and the Director of HR for your work on these safety issues. It was brought to my attention, and I brought it to your attention about concerns that members of the public had. And you know, safety has to always be a top priority. It's really close to home for me when I have, you know, friends of my family who are mourning loss of loved ones because they were injured on job sites. And I just don't want to be responsible for any situation ever where any of our staff are not protected. So I very much appreciate you guys getting together, doing the work on this, and making sure that those safety practices are in place and those sign-offs are being done, because it's really important that everybody gets to go home to their family every evening. So thank you for that. That's it for me.
Can I just ask a question with regards to the trail development? So where is the trail going to go now? You're saying that it's not going to continue down where it's currently going. And Western Island Pond, is that?
Still haven't come back with any solutions other than stop at the present time and they're reviewing options, so we'll have more after the next meeting.
Because I'm just looking at, I guess, the money that we had budgeted for trails, that'll be spent this year, and I'm assuming.
Okay, we'll take a look at that.
When we discussed that at committee, we did have that conversation at committee, and Director did advise us that there were a couple of areas where we needed to clean those trails and do some maintenance. Were you able to speak to some of those for the Deputy Mayor?
I can speak to it, yeah. So one of the areas we're looking at is over on West Island Pond, the trail that leads just across from the playground down to the pond. It's been there for 20-odd years now and has never been touched.
Right.
So there's two
Going down
prop,
from the road down?
yeah, that one. So that's one of the ones we're looking at. Like I said, there's two property owners, one on either side. So once the budget presentations are over tomorrow, I'm going to contact those two and see, just to make sure they're on board with what we're doing there, so we don't run into any other issues. And then I'll pivot the Grand Concourse over to that site, so we can use up the funding later, as the Mayor mentioned.
All right. But we haven't
Thank
taken a decision yet not to continue on with that trail that we're working on, right? Council haven't made that decision.
Council have not made a decision, no.
Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you very much. Recreation, Community Services.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We met on November 10th, myself, Director Jem Martin, and Deputy Mayor Thorne Goss. During the meeting, we just spoke of winter programming. Department's looking at offering various new programs for youth drop-in, adult open gym time, senior socials, seniors fitness. Looking at with the community groups to see what kind of participation we can use to enhance existing groups. Event ticket sales, directors working with the finance department to develop a system to allow ticket sales at the actual Torbay Common. This is actually a good thing that we can allow anybody to come in and just pay at the area instead of trying to go online through our online services. It just makes it easier for everybody to access the facility and to make payments for those things. Remembrance Day Ceremony was held at the November 11th at the memorial. There were 30 community groups registered to lay a wreath. Communities in Bloom, the town of Torbay received a certificate for the participation in the 2021 Virtual Communities in Bloom National Event. Facilities update, rentals, staff are working on schedule for rentals during the winter at Torbay Common, with evenings and weekdays and weekends being almost fully booked. Looking into options to bring rentals in during non-prime daytime hours. Also looking at a rental structure that's a little bit different than what we have right now, and the director's going to bring a plan back to committee once it's developed.
All right, any questions? See, did such a good job, nobody got any questions. See, all right, thank you very much. Liaison committees, Atlantic Mayor's Congress, I reported on that last week. History House and Museum. Councillor Tapper.
Yeah, there's a report there from the museum manager outlining some of the activities. Of course, mentioned that we've met now, our board have met a couple of times, and but the manager is working on a collections management, budget development, and museum exhibit design and content. So there's some bullets on that in your package. And strategic plan, the steering committee met November the 4th, and we're going to develop a 3-year strategic plan focused on museum operations. Museum manager is conducting the environmental scan and internal policy review, and the next meeting for that committee is November the 25th. That's the strategic planning committee. So, and the next regular meeting of the board of directors is December the 7th.
All right, thank you. Next on the list, Intergovernmental Affairs. Just so happens, had a couple of things to update on from today. All council was aware that a resident or a couple of residents sent us a communication last night with regards to the proposed project for Windy Heights Farm on Balling Line. I don't know, Councillor Pollard, if you're in a conflict, if I'm going to discuss this or not.
I don't say anything. No, I'm not.
Okay. Anyway, so this is a project that is up for environmental assessment with the in the town of Portrush Cove St. Phillips along Balling Line extension, and we became aware of it late last night, and I forwarded it to staff last night when I received it, and went on and looked at the proposal myself today. I know that we do have some concerns. I spoke to Mayor McDonald today, I spoke to Mayor LeGros, and I spoke to MHA Wall about it, and just to try and get a better understanding of what's going on there. And I know that the planning department and our environmental advisory committee are going to look at this and get some kind of response in from the town by November the 18th on the environmental assessment process. And I know that Mayor McDonald told me that they requested or are requesting that the minister hold off on his decision-making until January instead of November 25th, I think, is the date that was on the environmental assessment review. So anyway, that's an update for there. So if I hear anything else back on that, I'll be sure to share it with the rest of council. Okay, Jack Byrne, Councilor Pollard.
Thank you, Your Worship. We're still trying to schedule a meeting. The last one was cancelled because of lack of quorum, and they have it tentatively scheduled for the 18th, but I see lots of conflicts with that at the present time too, so I don't know that that will be going ahead. There was a question as to whether or not there would be an ask from a budget perspective. I don't see it as coming down the pipe. It looks like there would probably be a slight surplus by the end of the year, some $20,000 if all works out the way it is now, so we won't have to go looking for any contribution from the town. There was talks about a new Zamboni machine at one point in time, but I know the board discussed keeping that in-house in terms of financing itself and doing it through the revenue generation from Jack Byrne Arena itself. So I don't think there will be anything coming forward, but the short of it is, I guess we're still having to wait for the AGM and the scheduling of that due for this Thursday, but I don't know if that's going to go ahead. But
Okay, and they also had to try and meet that requirement right in our lease agreement with regards to the budget sent back to the town. Because that lease agreement is signed and I guess signed, sealed, delivered. All right, thank you. I'll leave that to you. Northeast Avalon Joint Council, Deputy Mayor.
The meeting is on, our first meeting since spring is on Wednesday night. But due to our budget presentations and what have you, I won't be in attendance. Somebody else, Craig Williams, will chair the meeting in my absence. I just want to know, though, did we come up with somebody else that is interested in attending Northeast Avalon Joint Council?
There was no response.
Nobody is
No.
interested. It's a great opportunity for any councillor that wants to, I guess, work with basically 19 other communities to go and hear what's happening and work together as a team. From a,
What? Go ahead.
If nobody else is interested,
I was just gonna say, I might,
smile.
yeah, I mean, I could.
But it's for two
I'll try to
people.
make as many meetings as
Yeah.
I can.
Yeah, it's, and in the, apparently it's been in the Constitution for years. They never updated it. And there's always been that two people could attend from each town.
Yeah.
So it's a really, and since COVID, of course, we haven't, you know, we've only had one meeting outside of that. Okay.
What
that'd be
days do
good.
they normally meet?
It's on the third Wednesday of
Yeah.
each month.
And they don't meet July and August.
All right, so,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're, I can do that, Ralph. If you're on other committees and I don't mind filling in as.
It's not filling in.
No, I mean, going on that,
Yeah,
right? It's on a
It's-
Wednesday?
it's-
I'll talk to you, we'll talk about it and then we'll
Yeah.
figure out, we'll have to pass a motion sent to make it, right?
yeah, but that's the thing, that it's not filling in. That's what we used to always call it.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's for two people because the whole it's up for vote, I think, in December month.
okay,
So it'll be a new chair and what have you, right?
all right. Can I continue to call it filled in?
Just to note as well, I was attending all of those as the Avalon director, and I wanted to wait until the election in MNL to see what I was gonna do. So, I may be looking to attend and participate from an MNL perspective in the meetings. I don't know that it makes sense to, put myself in as a representative of Torbay Town Council. If we've got a councillor who's interested to do that, by all means.
Yeah, and Tina's in there as MNL too, she started.
Yeah, so at the provincial level instead of just the Avalon, I think I'll start doing a little bit more of those, so we can have a
Okay.
conversation about participating in that level as
No,
well.
it's good. The more we get, the better.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Hang on, Don. So the Royal Flags never have no update, we're still in contact with them to try and get a town meeting, right?
Yeah, they're meeting with council December 1st.
Mountain, meeting with council on December 1st, so that's the update for that. UMC committee meeting, I don't have an update because unfortunately I wasn't able to go to Corner Brook for the convention, and that's where my UMC meeting took place, and I
Do you
thank
want me to?
Councillor Appleby for chairing that meeting for me, and please, if you have an update, bring it.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to provide a short update. I did chair the UMC meeting in Corner Brook for Mayor Scott. We talked about the ATV Act and changes that would be coming with that. There were some really good conversations amongst communities about solutions that they have in place to deal with ATV challenges that they have and what they've done. Some communities talked about having designated ATV trails in place in their community and taking some of the asphalt that they actually had and putting it in on the trails to make sure that they could have designated spaces. part of the conversation was about concerns with seeing ATVs as a nuisance and seeing ATVs as a outdoor recreation activity in the community. And I think it was a really good conversation to have, because oftentimes the conversation is about the nuisance situation and not actually the benefits. And if we're going to be a nature-based tourism community, the conversation about what makes sense to have ATV trails connect on the Northeast Avalon may be a discussion that we want to have with our regional partners. I know on the Burin Peninsula, there was a gentleman, his name was Elroy Grandy, and he was a councillor in Garnish. And he led the ATV association there, and they had trails, they work with a COA, and they had funding. And they actually put together a trail system that went from the bottom of the Burin Peninsula right up to Goobies to connect to the rail beds to the rest of the island. So there was some really good discussion about that. There was also an update on some of the legislation that was on the agenda. But the biggest thing that was discussed at that meeting was the ATV discussions. And I think it just goes to show the value of participating in those conversations, because, you know, as one person spoke, the other person spoke, and then they got to talk about common synergies and challenges and how they could work together. And some of the communities that had different policies in the neighboring communities were in the room listening to their neighboring communities talking about, you know, what their challenges are and how they could work together. So it was a great meeting, and it was great to participate, and thank you for the opportunity to help out and chair for you.
Okay,
That's it.
perfect, thanks. And I guess to that point, and I guess for the benefit of people that are listening, the UMC committee that I chair with M&L is the 23 largest municipalities in the province. So
Yeah.
it's the ones that are 3,000 above. So it's not just small towns that are dealing with the ATV and the speeding issues. It crosses the whole gamut of,
Yep.
of municipality sizes, and the solutions that come forward. You know, sometimes the smaller municipality comes up with the best solution, and sometimes large ones like Cornerbrook come up with the best solution. So, you know, it's good to get everybody's perspective on that.
Mhm.
And thank you for that.
Yep.
All right. La 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 la. New business. I'm gonna go back this way. Let me see who I got. Da, da, da. Oh man, I wrote it down somewhere. Deputy Mayor, passed. Okay. Councillor Goss, passed. Councillor Eppie.
Thank you and congratulations. So, a big thank you to the municipalities all across this province for the support that I received at the convention in Cornerbrook. I'm very happy to share that I am the current Vice President of Municipalities Newfoundland and Labrador for the next 2 years. It was amazing to see how mayors and councillors came together and provided support for me at the town of Torbay. From the tip of the tip of Labrador all the way around this island. It was just amazing to see how people came together and provided that support. And there was a lot of people asking after our mayor, and who missed you at the event and the table as well. So big thank you to everybody who helped with that and all of your support. I may have had a fellow councillor come around and help me with putting up some of my posters when I needed a hand. And she might have been absolutely fabulous to help with that, just saying. I'd like to, if I could, share a couple of congratulations. We had some young girls from our community who attend our high school participate in volleyball, in a volleyball event in Grand Falls, Windsor this weekend. And they took the gold. And I'm proud of these girls. A lot of them are, junior high, grade 9 age. And I read about it on Facebook, and it's always nice to see young ambassadors from our community in different parts of the province playing safely and doing well, representing their school and our town. So hats off to the girls who did that. It was the Valley Central Championship that they took in Grand Falls, Windsor. And one of those moms, her name is Kelly Sharp. She's a curler, and she's been away to the Scotties. And they qualified, they were up in Halifax, actually, and played up there. And Kelly is a resident of Torbay, and she's also well-known, and I believe was referred to as a veteran when she was up in Halifax. And Kelly wasn't so sure when I spoke with her today if the veteran was about the age thing or if it was about her experience. And we had a chuckle about that. Certainly not her age. But I just want to extend congratulations to the kids who are participating in the sporting events and representing our town and doing so well. And it's great to see all that activity happening, especially with COVID and getting back into those things. And again, hats off to, you know, people that we have in our community every day who are doing things on the national stage that we don't always know or read or see about, but it's pretty cool to have, you know, people like her who are performing in a sport, you know, at the national level, just from our town, right, from Forest
Okay.
Landing. So
Thank
that's it
you.
for me, thanks.
It's very nice for Deputy Mayor and Councillor Goss to give you their time.
Right? I'm okay with that, anytime he wants to.
Councillor Pollard passed. Did he?
I did pass, yeah.
Yeah, Councillor Manning passed. Councillor Tapper passed. All right, back to me. Oh, you didn't? Well, carry on. Oh, yeah, you got thanks there, sorry.
Yeah. No, I started off thanking the last council. I'm going to do it this time as well. I'm involved with another group called Pipe Down NL. It's a lobbyist group trying to get government to change the legislation when it comes to excessive noise and all types of vehicles. There was an announcement from, and I want to thank the council for supporting that resolution, as did many dozens of others right from here to Labrador. But on Friday, there was an announcement that the government has changed the fines on that. They were in a range from $20 to $100, and now they're in a range from $250 to $1,000. So that they correspond to other jurisdictions right across Canada. So again, we were successful, and when we say we, all our towns were successful in getting that legislation changed. Just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I remember I attended the meeting with Pike Down NL and the minister, the first one, I guess, that they had.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it took a while to get that done, but it's done. All right, so I'm going to quickly go through this stuff I have here. I just want to say thank you to and congratulations to Philip Snow and his staff at Artistic Kitchens Designs. New building opened up. They did their grand opening at 918 Torbay Road on one day a week. I think it was
Friday.
Wednesday. Was it Friday? Friday. I can't keep track of everywhere I'm at, so yes, it was Friday, and thank him for inviting us. Some members of council were able to make it, and staff as well. So thank you to him, and congratulations on that, and look forward to his success there. Congratulations to Team Perry, who were curling in PEI this past weekend. They're a team that the town sponsors, and they have players on it from the town of Torbay. They're a young junior curling team, and I was watching them live over the weekend when I could to keep track of what they're doing. And Nicholas Codner is on that team, and congratulations to him and to the team for their success that they're having. Where am I to? Oh, just to give council a quick update, or just a reminder that on the 17th, we'll be meeting with the MP, 5:30, Don? 5:30? And we're gonna be meeting with MHA on the 23rd, 5:30? Okay, 5:30 on the 23rd, so stick that in your calendar. And December 1st is the RNC, which I mentioned earlier, but I'll mention again. So that's it. Oh, congratulations to Councillor Epby for re-elected as Vice President M&L.
Thank you, Mayor.
Just have some familiar faces on the board with me. All right, thank you. So that is that. Now, where am I to? Q&A. Anybody here want to have a question or a comment? Mr. Cody? Go ahead.
I have to stand up this time, my legs are not. It was the longest ever sat down, I did pants. You know, I've been here, looking at the pictures, but some of the stuff wasn't very well. And you know, I love Torbay, I love the people who wrote it. I looked over there at Tapper's Goal, I remember my grandpa, and I walked over there. I have some great people. You got it. Really appreciate it. Good work for your volunteer. The decisions you made here tonight, I don't agree with them. I hold no animosity, I want you to know that. This is just purely business. And there's nothing more than that. Most of you I know, some of you I know personally, some of you I know. Brian, you work with Julie, I did work with you when I think you were in Palmer, maybe CBS, RS, we ran across some other times. Tony, I worked with you on the pit approval down in Coastal Cove. My grandmother was Mary Manning. I would think, many things. Ralph, you're great friends, you're very well respected for a child. You went to school with my sister. No, I don't know you. Murray Thorne, Yvonne Manning, your best friend. Bill Manning, my partner, my father's partner, was alive. Yvonne, you and I hung around many parties together. Thank you for your time and that. That all being said, I can't be any more appreciative. The development of Forbet, approving the citizens, you went through great effort, compliment. There's no question, things of approving seniors or anything, no one questions that's a great idea. There's no need to qualify. We all know it's a great idea. The problem here tonight is that I'm here, I've very, very strongly presented myself, and I think I've done that well. But you still, unfortunately, don't realize you have a contract with me. Now you're in breach of trust. Or not breach of trust, but breach of contract, right? And unfortunately, you just forced this litigation. Now there will be appeal. I'm sorry. Thank you for your time.
Jerome, don't be sorry, and I thank you for your comments. And I think to your point of,
So when are you gonna meet with me?
I'm-
Meet-
can I-
Tell me, apologize that there's no more last with you just sabotaged a $10 million deal. Do you think there's no recourse to that? Do you think lawyers will resolve because somehow Don suggests or you that he obliged you to do this? It's not right what you just did. You just breached a contract.
Well,
You breached a contract.
all I can say is
Now,
that,
you're gonna say you don't know and.
I'm not gonna say that.
You didn't need to do this.
I'm not gonna say
You
that.
should have worked with me. And I asked you to work with me, but you refused to do it. Why? I don't know. I've been
What?
10 years at this.
okay, well, I guess
and I'm
we'll
sorry.
leave it
But
at
I
that.
hold no, again, I hold no grudges. This is just business. And if I did hold grudges, I'd never get to work today.
That's fine, and I know you appreciate where we come from, and that we sit around here and we try and make the best decisions we can with the information that we got. And then we move forward, and if you decide to go in a certain direction, then we'll deal with
Like I
that.
said, I have no problem with it all, I'm just sad to hear some of the stuff said here. It really showed it, it's just very clear, it's like, oh. But, you know, you just forced me to litigation. Obviously, it's gonna happen because it has to happen, but you didn't need to do that, I asked you not to begin to do it. All you had to do is meet with me, work something out, you need water.
Right.
You need it now. Torbay is jammed up because it has no water. It should never be in a position where it is. And it's easy to resolve, just get water.
You know what, that is one of our main goals and our objectives is to get water for the town, but, you know, we can't make it, so. All right, thank you. The next public council meeting is scheduled to take place on Monday, November 29th, 2021, right here at 6:30 at the Torbay Council Chambers. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn, please. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.